welcome to the RCORP lecture series on working with vulnerable populations. Our first video in the series will focus on working with the LGBTQIA+ population. In this presentation on working with the community, we'll address when to discuss topics with clients, as well as targeted techniques, including understanding identity-specific language and terminologies. We'll also discuss providing resources for competent care. Additional resources will be provided for clinicians to learn more. Though there are many ways in which community concerns appear in treatment, two common ones that we will address include barriers to accessing service and in the treatment room. A common example of barriers to treatment is as follows. Henry is a 21-year-old trans man who has avoided clinical care for 5 years due to fear of identity invalidation from providers. Some issues in the treatment room are many clinicians have expressed anxiety about two things. The first is a lack of familiarity with community-specific terms around gender and sexuality. They have also revealed discomfort about how and when to broach issues of identity with new clients. Some solutions include utilizing an inclusive intake form for all new clients, using non-gendered language, and accessing resources on community-specific language and terms. Here's one sample intake form pertaining to gender identity. Inclusive intakes forms are a way for clients to communicate important information about themselves to their new providers. It also serves as an avenue for clinicians to broach such topics with new clients. The clinician can simply review the intake form with the client at the first session. Ideally, we want to use the language that clients use to describe themselves and the important people in their lives. We also want to avoid causing offense when clients have not informed us of their pronouns and identities. In such events, we recommend using gender-neutral language instead of traditional gender signifiers such as Miss, Mrs., Mr., he, him, etc. For example, when a provider calls a client on the phone or greets them in person, instead of addressing them as Mrs. Hernandez, we can address them by their first name to avoid misgendering them. If this feels too informal, you could also use their full name. For example, hello, I'm calling for Jordan Hernandez. If a client responds with, this is Mrs. Hernandez, then the clinician knows how they prefer to be addressed. Another opportunity to use non-gendered language occurs with the terms mother, father, husband, and wife. Let's say I have to call or meet a child's parents. In this situation, I can use terms such as spouse, partner, or significant other instead of husband or wife. And I can use parent or guardian in place of father or mother. Cassidy appeared uncomfortable with their provider and mentioned discomfort around terms used in session. In such an event, it's likely the provider lacked familiarity with language in terms of the LGBTQ+ population. In such an instance, a clinician can learn and use client-centered terms and phrases which offer validation. For example, if a client refers to their partner as they, going forward, the clinician can use they/them pronouns to refer to the client's partner instead of he or she. If a client refers to himself as queer, a clinician should use this term to refer to the client's sexuality instead of assuming they are gay. Another solution is for the clinician to access resources that describe and define common terms and identities specific to the community. The National SOGI Center is one such organization that offers informative, easy, and accessible resources on their website. We discussed the importance of using client-centered language and terms in session, which consists of using the same terms for identities that the client uses to describe themselves and others. For example, a man might mention having a partner with a man's name, and then a clinician later refers to the client as gay. The client then corrects him by saying, "I'm not gay, I'm SGL," a term that stands for same gender loving, which is used by some Black and African Americans who feel that the terms gay and lesbian are too connected to whiteness. Here we provide some additional resources for service providers. The article by Matthew Lee Dominguez explains the importance of using a comprehensive intake for all clients. The National SOGI Center provides lots of resources on their website for healthcare providers working with the LGBTQ+ population.